What's inside the coffin of Queen Elizabeth I? Let's open it together. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is a special video because we're going to talk about one of the most famous coffins in the world. So the coffin of Queen Elizabeth I. This coffin has not been opened in over 300 years. It has been sealed shut for 327 years. And today we are going to try to find out why. Make sure to watch until the end of the video for all the details. Also, please give this video a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, and don't forget to subscribe. Let us know in the comments below if you've ever seen anything like that before. The coffin of the Virgin Queen has been sealed for more than 3 centuries. The lead-lined coffin of Elizabeth I, who died in 1603, has remained untouched since she was buried in 1604 in the nave of Westminster Abbey. But now, scientists have finally got access to the coffin after hundreds of years to discover what secrets it holds. Scientists have just examined the coffin of Queen Elizabeth I. The remains of the last Tudor monarch were exhumed at the request of the Church of England. Why would they want to do that? Well, reportedly, they wanted to make sure that her remains were still there. And if so, to examine them to learn more about her health during her life, and maybe even solve a mystery surrounding her death. So yes, the scientists have opened the coffin, and we have some updates for you. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up. According to reports, the scientists carefully opened the coffin without disturbing the remains of the Virgin Queen. They said that they did not want to disturb her, and indeed they did not disturb her. Her remains were placed inside an oak box lined with lead. The box was then placed into the coffin. The coffin itself was made from black and white marble. In fact, the stone coffin was carved by Italian sculptor Pompeo Landucci. It took him 3 years to complete, and now it is being carefully transported to a new location. According to reports, it will be moved to a location where visitors will be able to see it. More details will be shared later. Elizabeth I died in 1603, and she was buried in September of 1604. She was buried alongside her ancestors at the nave of Westminster Abbey. However, over time, the site where she was buried became a popular tourist destination, and the spot became overcrowded. That is when they decided to move her remains. It was unexactly easy to locate the coffin, as many monuments were built over it over the years. Finally, the coffin was discovered underneath a monument erected to commemorate the first Earl of Chatham. The coffin was then transferred to a different part of the church for preservation. Later, the church commissioned a replica of the original coffin and put it on display. But how exactly did scientists open the coffin? Researchers used a small camera to look inside the coffin, and they determined that the coffin was indeed empty. How did they know it was empty? Well, if you think about it, it was quite obvious. If the coffin was full, there wouldn't be any space for them to put the camera in. But that was only the first step. They needed to actually retrieve the coffin and examine it. To do that, they had to break the seal. They say that they did everything they could to avoid breaking the seal, but eventually, they had no other choice. Reportedly, they broke the seal in the museum's conservation studio. But when they finally opened it, they found that the coffin was empty. Turns out that centuries ago, sometime after her death, someone had already opened the coffin and removed the contents. Scientists did not expect to find the coffin empty, but that is exactly what they found. They believe that the coffin was previously opened during the English Civil War. During the war, the parliamentarians dug up the remains of 2 kings, Charles I and Oliver Cromwell. The soldiers desecrated the remains of King Charles I and chopped off the top of his skull with an axe. The skull was then kept as a souvenir by the parliamentarian general, General Thomas Harrison. But according to historians, Harrison's family returned the skull to the royalists after the war ended and the monarchy was restored. But he didn't stop there. He also returned the remains of Queen Elizabeth I, which were taken from the coffin. That is one theory anyway. We may never know for sure what really happened and why the coffin was empty. There is another interesting legend associated with the Virgin Queen's coffin. Apparently, the Queen's heart was cut out of her chest and placed in a separate coffin. Legend says that the heart of the Virgin Queen was removed during the autopsy and was buried in a separate coffin in the chancel of Westminster Abbey, according to reports. The legend was fueled by an account written by an eyewitness who wrote that the heart was treated with great solemnity. Now we know that this is nothing but a legend. In reality, the heart was probably not removed and placed in a separate coffin. Back then, autopsies were performed only in very rare cases. And even if it was done, no one would have dared to remove the Queen's heart. But where did the legend come from? Well, it may have come from the fact that in the past, members of the royal family were often buried with their hearts and livers placed in separate containers. But in this case, it was most likely just a legend. There is no evidence whatsoever that the Queen's heart was removed and buried separately. Here is something that we do know for sure. In 1826, the government commissioned a replica of the coffin and placed it on display at the Abbey. At the time, there were rumors that the real coffin was empty, but no one knew for sure. Even when the coffin was moved in 1929, no one bothered to check whether it contained the remains of the Queen or not. But now we know that the rumors were true. So let us know in the comments below what you think about that. Would you want to visit the coffin of Queen Elizabeth I? What are your thoughts? Please let me know. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please remember to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It's free. And I would love to have you back for my next video. And if you enjoy reading, check out my newsletter available online. I'd love to see you there too. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day and see you next time.